Hi, I'm Doug Padgett with Vote Common Good. At Vote Common Good, we encourage people of faith to bring about a change on Election Day by making the common good their voting criteria, and by deepening into faith, hope, and love to stop the re-election of Donald Trump. We've been talking to faith voters all across the country who did vote for Donald Trump in 2016, but won't be voting for him in 2020. Here are a few of their stories. You can hear their entire interviews and share your story at votecommongood.com.
I had never voted before, had no intentions of voting. Like I said, a neighbor, a friend, people around me that I really love and respected kept supporting him, and I kept thinking, well, maybe they're seeing something that I'm not seeing, and I hate to say it, but I gave in and I voted. And initially I didn't want to. Initially, I can remember talking to my husband, and I was, we were kind of going back and forth with it. And I kept saying, it doesn't seem like the real intellectual people are giving him their support. So I was on the fence, but sadly I did vote. And I realized early on it was not a good choice, that I should not have done that.
So talk a little bit about why you weren't a voter. I mean, maybe you don't have to have a reason why you weren't a voter. Maybe you just weren't.
I had been a stay-at-home mom for years and years and years, and I was just so busy, so devoted. I just never had time. I just never really give it much thought. I do live in Western North Carolina, and we're a little different down here. It's never much of an issue, honestly. I never got involved with politics, and to be honest, I didn't really know the difference.
Yeah. How does it feel now? Like I ran into you in a group of people that are thinking a lot about this next election. Sometimes I feel like I don't even know if I'm talking about politics. I feel like I'm talking about something bigger than politics by trying to stop Donald Trump's reelection. But I don't know how you think about that.
The only feeling that I have now is I'm scared, and that's mixed in with regret, complete and utter regret, because what I didn't see before, I'm seeing now. I'm seeing now the comparison, the Hitler, people, freaking out, just being scared. I see that now. I didn't see that before. It's pathetic, really. I regret my choice. I wish I could go back in time and shake myself, but I can't. All I can do now is just move forward and make better choices. But it was a big mistake on my part.
You're in this group that I'm in, which I think it's called like Christians resisting Donald Trump or stopping Donald Trump or something like that. Have you always been a person whose faith has mattered a lot to you? Has that been a part of your life? And
I grew up in church, but it wasn't until maybe the last couple of years that I really came into my own ideas and thoughts on religion. Yeah. And the deeper you delve into that, the clearer it becomes that Donald Trump is not a representation of anything Jesus related. You cannot correlate the two. It just doesn't happen. But you have to have a clear understanding of who Jesus was, what it means to be a follower of Jesus. You cannot take someone who wants to dictate with his own thoughts and ideas and turn that into something that God wants. You cannot do that.
These friends who were influential on you, and I totally understand why that would be in 2016, people that you trusted their instincts, their friendship, trusted their faith, and they were supporting Donald Trump, and you thought, well, I haven't really voted before, but if I'm going to do it, I'm going to follow these people. I totally understand why people would do that. Have you talked with them since you've had this awakening or change of heart or change in mind? Have you?
My friend, yes, and we haven't spoken in close to 2 weeks. I think she's avoiding me at this point, and my neighbor, no, I have not discussed, with her, other than I'm sure she's seeing some of my posts on Facebook, but no, we haven't formally discussed anything. I'm still in shock, I think, over everything that's happened. And his attitude, Donald Trump's attitude towards the whole situation I don't see how anyone can defend that at this point. And I'm not interested in even, going there with anybody right now.
Yeah. You're in North Carolina, which is one of the states that a lot of people think really matters, and it's one of those places where the number of votes that were for Donald Trump versus for Hillary Clinton back in 2016, people count all those up, people like me that think a lot about this work and others who are thinking about what the election in 2020 will be like. That can feel like a lot of pressure, I would imagine, on you to think, wow, I'm in one of the states that's really going to matter, and my influence on other people around me might be as dramatic as your friends and neighbors' influence were on you back in 2016. Does that sometimes feel like it's too much pressure for you to have to?
It does. Just recently on Facebook, when I've been more vocal about my stance, because even though I realized early on that I probably made a mistake, I didn't vocalize it just because I didn't want to start an argument or a fight with Facebook family, people that's on there. But since I have been more vocal in the last couple of weeks, it's been really bad. And I just sitting outside on my porch, you'll see people go up and down the highway, and they'll have their Trump flags on the back of their cars. And I don't know that my specific town will change their stance. It's sad, and it's really scary. It really is.
Yeah, boy, there's something going on in our country. I mean, I can feel it. I'm out doing things I would have never done before the election of Donald Trump. I run a whole organization and try to work around the country to make things like, your experience more common for people. So I realize, like, a lot of us are doing things we never thought we would do and are saying things out loud that we used to only keep in private or just among friends, and are all of a sudden finding ourselves really worried about the behavior of others to a point of mistrust. And that, I don't know about you, but that just doesn't feel great to me. That I don't trust my neighbors, and I don't trust people that I see on television or on Facebook. All of a sudden I'm being like, I don't even want to follow your posts about stuff that has nothing to do with this because it all feels tainted. And I don't know, this is just, we're in a moment that feels like it's going to pass. And I hope we never have this experience again, because it doesn't seem to me that we're just in a normal circumstance. It feels to me like we're caught up in something where it really, really matters, and it just doesn't seem like it should be this painful for so many of us.
No, and it is. It's very sad right now. Just today, someone died in my county with the disease, the first death that we've had. And I still don't think people are taking, this serious. And I don't know what it's going to take for them to realize that. I think about my children, and every time I look, I have two sons, and every time I look, into their eyes, I have to live with the fact that I voted for this man who did nothing to stop, to stop it, and he's still doing nothing. It's sad. I can't stand to watch the news. It's sad, but all we can do is pray. I'm like you. I think we're caught up in something, and prayer will probably be the only comfort that we'll have at this point.
Yeah, we like to say around our organization that there's these three stages that many of us go through. A wake-up stage where you kind of realize what's going on, and then you start to speak up and say this out loud to yourself, those close to you, and then those a little further from you. And then this third stage of stand up and to do something about it. And that might be election day, or it might be standing at an action outside, or standing for someone. That prayer kind of feels its way into all three of those phases, right? Like there's a way that prayer is a part of the wake up, and prayer is a part of what you're doing now, where you're starting to speak up. And I can tell this is, this is really uncomfortable for you to have to do all this. I appreciate it so much.
No problem.
And then the next step, of having to do something about it, to invite others, or to make your own vote, or however it's going to be. Because, we're given this incredible power as citizens in this country to choose our leaders and to choose the people that are going to give leadership to our federal government. And that's a lot of burden and a lot of responsibility. And I feel like the stakes have never been higher. And we can see, I don't want to bore you with what I pay attention to all day, but I get regular emails from the White House. They send out a regular email called White House Reads, and it's kind of updates on them bragging about what they've accomplished as an administration. And today's post that came out, or email that came out from them, was them bragging about the fact that in every other crisis, the federal government has expanded its reach and its work in the world to take on the big challenge, but that they, as an administration, are not allowing the federal government to get bigger. So they're bragging about the fact that they're not doing anything, that they're deregulating and decentralizing in the midst of this crisis. The very thing that people like me and maybe you are saying, please don't deregulate and don't decentralize. Like, help us have a regulated test, help us have regulated distribution of personal protective equipment, and please have a centralized response, because people in your county are dying. Friends of mine's parents have died in the last few days. And here you have a president saying, I'm so proud that we are decentralizing and deregulating. And it just feels like it's absolutely the wrong choice. So it feels more urgent than, all the other days. And I think we're into like 197 days now before this election when we can finally do something about it.
Well, I'm glad that it's unfortunate, and I hate the whole situation, but I'm glad that it's at a time where I can change, what I voted for originally and get him out, because I think that's really the only way we're going to survive this or come out of this alive, is because he's not taken this serious at all. And or maybe he's choosing not to for whatever reason. But I sincerely think he needs to go. We need to get someone in that cares, or at least will pretend to care at this point. He doesn't. That's what's scary. He's not even at this point pretending to care. And that's really what it takes to take for me.
Yeah. Well, Sheena Cox, thank you so much for taking time to talk. And if you're up for it, we'd love to stay in touch. And we're going to be back in North Carolina where, with this group. We travel the country when it's safe to do so. And we're going to be back in North Carolina, and we run events, and would love to stay in touch with you through all of that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.